Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1139, 1139, May the 22nd, 2020, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, yeah, so yesterday the video, very late to upload. Again, you know, if you've been watching my videos for a long time, you know this just occasionally happens. You know, I wake up and I expect my video to be uploaded and it's not. So a lot of times what will happen, I think, is it just has to do with my internet service provider. I think they do some sort of a system backup, and when they do, you know, we'll go offline for a little while. And anytime you're uploading a video on YouTube and you lose connection, even if it's for 2 seconds, stops the video and it doesn't, you know, upload again until you restart it or completely re-upload it. And that's what happened yesterday morning. So that's why the video was late getting uploaded. And it just happens, and I think it's more to do with my service provider than anything else. And it happens about once a month, so it's just something I've come to live with. Anyway, let's go ahead and get on to the news of the day. Okay, well, the U.S. Senate has, in a fast pass, approved the nomination for Director of National Intelligence of John Ratcliffe. All right. John Ratcliffe is going to be the ODNI. In fact, he is, as of right now. He has been approved. The vote was 49 to 44. And what's so funny about this is it wasn't that long ago that Trump first nominated Ratcliffe, and McConnell and Burr would not even schedule a hearing. In fact, I heard they wouldn't even take his calls when he called to try to find out when they're going to schedule hearings. And they just wouldn't touch him. So Trump then puts in Grinnell, and we can see the damage that Grinnell has done to the deep state. Plus, it's very personal. I mean, they just don't like Grinnell. It's not just because of the documents that he releases, but it's his attitude, the fact that he laughs and makes fun and screws with these guys. I mean, you know, it's. I think a lot has to do with his personality, not just, you know, the fact that he's releasing all these documents. Because, quite honestly, Ratcliffe is going to do basically the same thing. But I think at least with Ratcliffe, I think they at least like him, as far as they think he's a nice guy, smart guy, whatever. And he's, you know, he's not quite as flamboyant as Grinnell. He's not going to be over there having fun. I mean, Grinnell's having a blast. Trust me, Grinnell is doing this stuff and laughing hard. I mean, he's releasing this information, putting it out there, and then sitting back waiting and watching to see the response, and he's laughing hard about it. He's having fun, battling Schiff, screwing with him, screwing with the Senate Intelligence Committee. So Grinnell's having a ball doing what he's doing. And that's what bothers them most, is that he's having a hell of a good time doing what he's doing. And they think, well, at least Ratcliffe is a lot more, you know, low profile. He's still going to be releasing a lot of documents. He's still totally 100% Trump supporter, 100% got his eye on the ball of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax, the Mueller witch hunt, and the whole 9 yards. I mean, Ratcliffe and Grinnell, there's no difference between them as far as how they will approach the job, releasing classified information, getting to the bottom of things. It's just that Grinnell is just, you know, he's having way too much fun. And that's what's driving them crazy. So it's just funny that 6 months ago, they wouldn't touch Ratcliffe with a 10-foot pole because they were terrified. So Trump drops Grinnell on them. And after a few months of Grinnell, man, they're ready for Ratcliffe. They couldn't vote for him fast enough. It's what they actually call a fast pass. They didn't even debate it. There was none of that. I mean, I'm sure that probably a day or so ago, they did the head count, found out they had the votes they needed, and that was it. That was it. We got the votes good. And it was just a very quick, I'm sure, just a quick voice vote, yay or nay, up or down. And it happened fast. We didn't even hear. I didn't even know the hearing was even going to be held yesterday. But they snuck it in there, got it done, and it went fast. And they got Ratcliffe confirmed. So he's going to do a great job. I mean, Ratcliffe's going to be a great DNI. I mean, you know, he actually has a lot more insight into things than Grinnell did because, you know, Ratcliffe is one of the three guys, along with Gowdy and Nunes, who has seen a lot of this information that other people are trying to get them to release. So Ratcliffe knows exactly what things need to be released. He knows exactly, because he's already seen them. He knows what documents exist. He's seen a lot of this stuff. So I expect Ratcliffe, when he comes in, to really just pick up right where Grinnell left off. And he might even know about some things that need to be released that Grinnell's not even aware of. Now, the only perplexing thing about this is, what do you do with Grinnell? You don't want to lose Grinnell. I mean, you got to find some place for Grinnell. I mean, now, if it were me, I would fire Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray and make Grinnell my FBI director. Imagine how fast we would get to the bottom of that mess at the FBI. The problem is, I don't think that Trump would ever get him appointed, but he could do the same thing he did with Grinnell at DNI. He could fire Ray and then make a recess appointment, or make an appointment, a temporary appointment, until he gets a new FBI director. He could do the exact same thing, and then he'd get the FBI director he wants. I mean, I think Trump's figuring out the swamp, figuring out how to get things done in the swamp, and that is that you use every single measure available to you. That's what the demo commies have been doing to him, and so Trump's starting to figure out how this works. And he's like, okay, well, I have a lot of things I can do that I haven't done that I think I'm going to start doing. I can play the same type of game, and that's what he did with Grinnell. Okay, you don't want Ratcliffe? Okay, then I'll go ahead, because I can now make a temporary appointment. I'll go ahead and give you, how about Rick Grinnell? So he could do the same thing with the FBI director, Now that he's got Ratcliffe over at DNI, which is where he wanted him in the first place, he could do the same thing with Ray. He could fire Ray and say, okay, here's who I want to be my FBI director, and they can say, oh no, we can't do that. He says, okay, how about Rick Grinnell to be my temporary until I find someone that you will confirm, and then just run Grinnell for the long as you can, and then finally they'll get so sick of him as FBI director, then you'll get the actual FBI director you want. But I would go ahead and make that move. I'm telling you, what's most important to me though is that Rick Grinnell, I'm sure he's still the ambassador to Germany, and I'm sure that's a great job. But no, you got to find a place somewhere, in the apparatus for Rick Grinnell. I mean, he did an absolutely fantastic job, and in fact, he was one of the first to congratulate Ratcliffe on a tweet. Rick Grinnell sent a big congratulations to Ratcliffe. So I think he seems to be pretty happy. So my guess is that this has already been discussed. I mean, they knew this was going to happen probably a few weeks ago, and my guess is that Trump's already discussed with Grinnell the fact that, hey, once Ratcliffe takes over, where can you best serve me and keep doing what you're doing? And I'm sure Rick Grinnell's got some ideas where he could best fit in to continue unraveling the coup plot and taking down the deep state. So, yes, I look for Grinnell to be put into another position, another very important position where he can continue to unravel the coup. Well done. Well done. It's like a twofer. You get Ratcliffe and Grinnell. And an excellent strategy by Trump to get it done. So there's two really good guys, Ratcliffe and Grinnell, and we need them both. And especially coming up on the 2016 election, why this is so important is that now, coming into the 2016 election, you don't have to worry about shenanigans coming out of the intelligence community, because you've had Grinnell there making sure that nothing could be cooked up under his watch, and then Ratcliffe's going to come in and continue to make sure that the intelligence community stays in line. And so you take away that potential weapon that the deep state would use against you, which is a big one. So I think that it's important on a lot of different levels that this happened, and very happy to see Ratcliffe moving over as DNI. Kind of hate to lose him in the Congress. Hopefully he'll be replaced with someone who's also very good. But there you go. Ratcliffe has been confirmed. Now, another interesting story popped up yesterday with this D.C. Circuit panel ordering Judge Sullivan to respond to the defense's petition for a writ of mandamus. And they want his response within 10 days, and I believe it's in person. Now, this is a 3-judge panel. One of these judges appointed by Trump, one of these judges appointed by Reagan, and the other appointed by Obama. And I'm hearing from legal experts who've commented on this that this is extraordinarily rare for the higher court to put a judge who's just made a ruling like this into this position. That this is extremely rare for this to happen. But what's even more extraordinarily rare is the limited amount of time. They're only giving him 10 days. In other words, they want Sullivan basically to come in and explain his recent actions, why he is doing what he is doing, and they want it now, in 10 days. And I do believe that he has to appear before this 3-judge panel. It's not in writing, it's in person. And clearly, by the fact that they want this done in 10 days, means that they want all this done before this circus can even get started that Sullivan is trying to get going. So it looks like that they're going to try to nip this thing in the bud, because I assume that they can. And in fact, they could have. This 3-judge panel could have put this thing down. But what's interesting is that they did not just, matter-of-factly put it down. Instead, they said, no. Sullivan, you got 10 days to come before us and explain your recent actions. What are you doing all this for? And I think this is worse than shooting it down, because they're going to shoot it down anyway, likely. But what this forces Sullivan to do is sit there in front of a 3-judge panel who at least 2 of the 3 we know for sure are not, going to be on his team. They're not on the Obama team, let's say. They're not on the deep state team. They're going to embarrass the hell out of Sullivan, because they're going to be questioning him back. He's going to try to make some sort of a lame argument, and they're just going to destroy his arguments and make him look very stupid. So this is not just intended to shoot this thing down and put an end to it, but it's a move to embarrass and make a fool of Sullivan. In the process, they're going to embarrass him and make a fool of him. Then they're going to shoot it down. They're going to make him pay a little price for his shenanigans. And so I'm looking very much forward. I don't know if these hearings will be public. I doubt. In fact, I'm sure they're not public hearings. But I'm sure that we'll get some information about exactly how this is all going to go down. But I'm sure it's going to be very entertaining. I hope we can get some transcripts or something, because we'll all be wanting to hear what Judge Sullivan has to say to this 3-judge panel, and certainly what they have to say to him. And then my guess is afterwards, and he proves that this was nothing more than a political stunt, they're going to shoot it down and make him look stupid and embarrass him at the same time. So it's actually it's actually a wonderful resolution to this whole thing, and exactly really a good way to handle this. You don't let Sullivan off the hook quietly. You make an example of him, and you publicly embarrass him, humiliate him. And that's what you want to do here. So that's a very good ruling by this three-judge panel. I don't know if it was unanimous or 2-1, but it's probably 2-1. I'm sure the Obama judge was with Sullivan. But fortunately, the other 2 judges, one's a Reagan appointee, one is a Trump appointee. So that's the importance of judges right there. Something else that's pretty cool that we learned about yesterday is that the Trump campaign has launched a show that's going to be sort of a response or an answer to The View, which we all know The View is completely nuts. I mean, that's just a nutty group of women over there that are just, they're dummies. I mean, these are literally dummies. But millions and millions of women tune in and watch these 4 dummies on The View and believe a lot of what they say and actually think these women actually have a clue. They don't. They're all morons. Partisan hardcore morons and Trump haters. So they have a show now. The Trump campaign is going to launch this show called The Right View, and it's going to be hosted by Lara Trump, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Mercedes Schlapp, and Katrina Pearson. And that's 4 ladies who can bring it right there. And I'll put those 4 up against The View any day. Any day. These 4 women are a lot smarter than any of those imbeciles on The View. And my guess is what they're going to do is they're going to take what they say on The View and I guess make fun of The View. And in pretty simple terms, make fun of them, but correct them, and get the facts right and get this out there. So yeah, this is a very good campaign move, and you've got 4 really smart, capable women right there who I'm sure will do a fantastic job. Lara Trump is really impressive. Whenever I see her, she's very impressive. She's very smart. And Kimberly Guilfoyle, of course, is, she's reasonably smart, but she loves Trump, and she's, every time I've seen her, she's done a pretty good job defending him. Of course, Mercedes Schlapp, very smart. Her husband, of course, is Matt Schlapp, who's involved in the RNC and things like that. They're insiders. They're very insiders in the Republican Party, and that's important because these are generally people who would be opposed to Trump. These would generally be anti-Trumpers. They're part of the Republican establishment. So when you see the Schlapps, who are generally establishment Republicans, on the Trump team, that's a very good sign for the fact that the RNC is going to be fully supportive of Trump. And they certainly weren't in 2016. And of course, Katrina Pearson, who's obviously a very loyal defender of Trump. Whenever you see her on TV, she's very smart. And she also knows how to deal with the leftist. She can make a very cogent argument and does a very good job of explaining her positions and defending Trump. So four very good, talented women there. I'm sure they'll do a great job, and they'll just destroy those old haggadorns over there on The View, the old magpies. Well, things are getting pretty rough for the Biden campaign. It looks like now they've asked Amy Klobuchar to go through a vetting process. Now, this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem if they decide to go with Klobuchar. She might be the only sane Democrat female in the field. I mean, Kamala Harris, they don't need Kamala Harris in the Biden campaign because they're going to win California anyway. And she's not even that well liked. And she's an idiot, basically. She is almost as gaffe prone as Biden. She just gets much more of a free pass. Then, of course, you'd have this nut, Stacey, what's her name, Abrams. She's a complete loser. I mean, she's not even, I don't think she's even in serious consideration. The favorite by Democrat voters, supposedly, is Pocahontas. But Pocahontas she came in third place in her own state. She can't deliver anything. She's not that popular. She's too far to the left. Wall Street's already the biggest donor to the Democratic Party is Wall Street, and they've already said do not put Elizabeth Warren anywhere near the ticket. So she has no chance. So really they're running out, and Biden already stepped in it when he said he was going to make sure his VP was a woman. He gave himself a very, very limited selection by making that statement. Now he's locked in. It's got to be a woman. But when he said that, the lefties, I think, assume it's going to have to be a woman of color. Well, Amy Klobuchar is as white as they come. Not to mention, she just came out yesterday and gave a glowing endorsement of hydroxychloroquine. She says now that her husband had this virus, and that's what he took, and it cured him. So that's not going to make her very popular, coming out and endorsing Trump's drug of choice for the coronavirus. Not to mention, now one thing she does bring to the table is Minnesota. But, she's not terribly popular in Minnesota. She's not overwhelmingly popular there. So, I don't know. Maybe she swings at a point or two. It's possible. But, she's not a good campaigner. She doesn't have, a lot of charisma. She's not really a superstar or anything like that. I mean, for anyone, for them to bring in someone to help Biden, it really needs to be someone who really, really is good. But they really don't have anyone. No, there's none of the female Democrats that are. They're all very lame. And the problem Klobuchar's got is she's awfully white. And that's not going to be, I mean, if he names Klobuchar as his VP, the black community, black females and black community in general, is going to be really, really pissed that they overlook Kamala Harris, that they overlook Stacey Abrams, or maybe Pocahontas, who of course claims to be an Indian. Of all the women that he could have picked if he goes to Klobuchar, plus Klobuchar is not your hard left. She is kind of a center. She's kind of a center left. She's left of center. She's kind of more of a neoliberal. So a neoliberal is not really going to excite the Bernie bros. If you want to get the Bernie bro vote, then you should have dropped Elizabeth Warren, or you should drop someone even farther to the left than her, whoever that would be. I don't know. But there just aren't that many good choices. But, you know, any one of these that you got on the line, I mean, I could go down the line of all these female Democrats, and of course, people were talking Gretchen Whitmer for there for a while, but she has done such a disastrously bad job up in Michigan. And there are people up in Michigan who are about ready to lynch the woman, especially after her latest fiasco, telling people not to go to their summer homes, and then they find out that she's been in her summer home, you know, for weeks. So she has her popularity has dropped massively just in the last month because she's just doing a miserable job in Michigan. People up in Michigan, I have some friends that live up there, and I have a friend that lives in Dearborn. Got transferred up there about 5 years ago, and he sends me texts every now and then about the situation. He says that they're ready to lynch her, you know, up there in Michigan. So she fell off the radar pretty quickly. So, I mean, Biden really doesn't have much of a choice. And he's so weak anyway. I'll be honest with you. If I'm Klobuchar, I'd keep my distance from Biden. I would not have even accepted. People are dropping Susan Rice's name, but she's up to her eyeballs in Spygate. Hell, she might be in jail by November. So, Biden doesn't have a lot of good choices, and it was a stupid decision on his part to say, well, I guarantee my VP is going to be a woman. And, I mean, that was a stupid thing to do. I mean, he put himself in this position, and there just aren't that many good choices. And no matter which choice he makes, he's going to take a beating for it. Unless he picks someone who's extremely liberal, very, very far left, that would please the Bernie bros, someone of color, a black woman. So he needs a black woman who's way, way far to the left of where the party wants to be. In other words, a black Bernie is what they need. A black female Bernie is what he needs. But it's not going to happen. There's just no way for him to win here. Which, there's no way for him to win anyway. I don't even think he'll be the nominee. I've been saying that for a long time, and I'll stick with that. Now, let's go over to PJ Media article by Matt Margolis, who's done a lot of great work, a lot of good writing on the Russia hoax and the Ukraine hoax as well. And he points out something in an article that he found in the Mueller report. In the Mueller report, it says that the FBI offered to pay Christopher They offered to pay Chrissy Steele. The FBI offered to pay Chrissy Steele a big chunk of money to dig up dirt on Michael Flynn. Now, I don't know how everyone else missed this in the Mueller report, but that's exactly what is in the Mueller report. That the FBI offered to pay Christopher Steele to dig up dirt on Michael Flynn. Now, this is the first time that we've heard of a Christopher Steele working on the Michael Flynn thing. But apparently this proposal was made just weeks before the election, and that the FBI wanted Steele to find any sources who could serve as cooperating witnesses that could identify persons in the Trump campaign that had a relationship to Russia. Now, this would obviously come after they had already fired Steele as a source for, leaking stuff to the media. But of course, we know he set up a back channel, tried to set up a back channel with Bruce Orr, and he also had his partner at Orbis contacting his former handler, Michael Gaeta. So, Chris Burrows. So, there's a lot going on here. But it is the first time that we've seen where the FBI was attempting to pay Steele to specifically look at Michael Flynn. And it's right there in the IG report. Matt Margolis, good find. And needs to be some digging there. Now, it also should be mentioned that Christopher Steele, and this is something we haven't even talked about because I've been too busy with other things, but this is something that popped out a couple of days ago, is that Christopher Steele was also peddling the rumor about Michael Flynn having an extramarital relationship. And he told that to David Kramer, Senator Magoo's boy, who was, going over to London to get the dossier from Steele and all that sort of thing, working for McCain, who I call Senator Magoo. Now, so Magoo sends David Kramer, his right-hand man, over to London, and in the process of him getting the dossier material, Steele tells David Kramer about Michael Flynn maybe having an extramarital relationship. So here again, we have another instance where Steele is obviously having some interest in Michael Flynn. The FBI is wanting to pay him a boatload of money to find some corroboration for Flynn or other people in the Trump administration having Russian contacts. But here he is telling David Kramer about Steele telling David Kramer about Michael Flynn maybe having an extramarital relationship. And who do you think would have told him that? Well, the guy that we know originally started the rumor about him and Svetlana Lakova was Stefan Halper. Now, it is hard for me to believe, always has been hard for me to believe, and I've said this many times, that Halper and Steele were not in some contact or communication. Hard to believe. They're both in London. They're both working on the same thing. They both know a lot of the same people. They both hang out at the same places with the same sort of group. So it's nearly impossible to think that Steele wasn't in some way communicating with Halper. And we don't know at this point. It hasn't been confirmed. The question has been raised. I've raised it. Dan Bongino has raised it. Other people have raised it. How do we know that Halper wasn't being a source to Steele? Because a lot of Halper's BS ends up in Steele's Steele's purports. And do we really know whether Halper was just tasked out of the Pentagon? Could he also have been working for Confusion GPS? Could he have been subcontracted by the Clinton campaign? Who else was paying Halper? You see, these are all the questions. There's a lot of questions in regards to Stefan Halper. And a lot of connections to Steele, connections to Downer, connections to Mifsud, connections to the Clinton campaign. What other connections did he have? And I'm sure that Durham is, of course, interviewed or will interview Halper, and we'll try to get to the bottom of that. But there's another story I haven't had a chance to comment on, which is another thing that Dan Bongino was talking about last week that I never had a chance to even touch on or look into. I'm going to look into a little bit. I haven't had a chance to, but just from what Bongino was talking about, he was saying that Christopher Steele was having a conversation with Mike Gaeta, his handler, FBI handler in Rome, and that Gaeta asked Steele if he knew or had heard about George Papadopoulos. And Steele says no, that he doesn't know Papadopoulos, has never heard of Papadopoulos, doesn't know anything about Papadopoulos. Now, that's very interesting that Steele would say that, because Steele's primary sub-source, as we now know, was Sergei Milian. And we know that during the period of the summer and fall of 2016, Milian had contact with Papadopoulos 5 times. So here's Milian having contact with Papadopoulos 5 times during the period, the hot period, when Steele's trying to get the dossier together and trying to get all this going. He's meeting with his subsource, Milian, who's just met with Papadopoulos on 5 occasions during that 2 to 3 month time period, and we're led to believe that Milian would never say anything to Steele about Papadopoulos? What's the odds of that? What's the odds of that? Milian is having these contacts with Papadopoulos, who's in the Trump campaign. Milian is a subsource for Steele, who's investigating, or, allegedly investigating the Trump campaign. And Milian, despite the fact that Papadopoulos' information ends up making it out there, they find out who he is, they bring him over, Halper brings him over to London, or he's actually in London at the time, brings him into this, this law center, International Law Center in London. Then they have this Arvinder Sambe, a former, person who worked for Uncle Bob the Executioner, Mueller. She tells him he needs to go to Rome and meet Mifsud because Mifsud can introduce him to a lot of important people. Turns out he can't. He's very connected. Turns out he wasn't. Steele runs in all these circles. Gaeta is in Rome. He certainly knows about Link University. He would probably know about Misfid. He would certainly know about Halper, I would think. Would know about Downer. He would know all these players. I mean, all these guys know each other. They all know each other. So, I am inclined to believe that Christopher Steele was lying when Gaeta asked him if he knew about Papagalopoulos. I'm also certain, I don't know this, I haven't seen the evidence, but I'm certain that when we get to the bottom of this, we're going to find out that Steele and Halper were communicating, either directly or through an intermediary. There's too many things where they had to have crossed paths. They're both working on the same thing in the same place at the same time with a lot of the same players around them that they both mutually know, yet we're supposed to believe that their paths never cross. It's just very difficult to believe. Very difficult. Well, Trump is, that the coronavirus thing is winding down. That things are starting to get back to normal because Trump's starting to get back to his good old self at poking fun at the media and making some really good jokes. He's at a presser yesterday on his way onto the helicopter, and he stops for a few minutes to talk to the media, and they ask him if he's going to be going to his SpaceX launch next week. Mike Pence is going to be there, and Trump said, right now I am looking at that. I would like to go watch the rocket blast off. And he said, I certainly hope a lot of you people will be there to check it out. In fact, I'd like to put all of you on that rocket and send you up in space and get rid of you for a while. Very, very good. So he's getting back to his good old self, getting back to normal. That's good. Oh, guess who's going to be headlining Joe Biden's next fundraiser? Andrew Wiseass. My God. You can't make this shit up, man. These people. Now, we have another story which is very interesting. Where it's being reported now that John Durham is looking at the retired CIA chief, Mike Morrell. Of course, many of us saw a lot of his media appearances. He's a despicable son of a bitch, Trump hater, former head of the CIA, Mike Morrell. And Durham is looking at him because he apparently was spreading false rumors about the Trump-Russia during the 2016 campaign. And what Durham is looking at is that it appears that Mike Morrell and some other former intelligence and national security officials may have all been out there doing those TV media appearances, and that they were all actually being paid, and that they had been recruited as part of a task force. A task force. And they were being paid to go out. Former intelligence and national security officials being put together as part of a special task force to go out and do media appearances to push the Trump-Russia hoax scheme. And if that's true, that makes them conspirators. And so Durham is apparently looking at them, and that there may be a Brennan connection to that. And of course, that's something we all saw from these transcripts. When you see the transcripts and all these people are asked if they know about any Trump-Russia collusion, they all say no. Yet they're all out there on TV pushing it. That in a political way, using their past credentials as intelligence people, pretending that they've got some secret information that could fall into the conspiracy. So, yes, definitely look into that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Out of time. See you tomorrow. Bye.